I'm standing in the student union as students respond to the horrible tragedy that has happened today. At 9 a.m. today, a plane was crashed into the first World Trade Center tower, and shortly after, a second plane was crashed into the other tower. A few moments after that, in the Washington, D.C. area, a third plane was crashed into the Pentagon shortly after. At 10 o'clock a.m., the first Trade Center tower collapsed as America watched, and later after that, the other tower also collapsed. So the World Trade Center, as we know it, is destroyed for the most part. New York has been shut down. The stock market has not opened today. Federal buildings in Washington, D.C. have also been shut down. The White House has been evacuated, as well as the Capitol building. Also, the FAA has grounded all air traffic for fear of another attack, like the ones that have occurred already. The latest news that we're getting is that another plane has crashed in Pennsylvania, but it is unknown if that plane is related to the other crashes. The 4 planes that were crashes were all commercial airlines that were hijacked this morning. At least one of them was coming from Boston.
Nobody ever would contemplate that we would lose the World Trade Centers and in this manner.
People that the full resources of the federal government are working to assist local authorities to save lives and to help the victims of these attacks. Make no mistake, the United States will hunt down and punish those responsible for these cowardly acts. I've been in regular contact with the Vice President, Secretary of Defense, the National Security Team, and my cabinet. We have taken all appropriate security precautions to protect the American people.
Bagels, coffee, and other refreshments were served as UMass students gathered in the Student Union, Campus Center, and Blue Wall to watch the tragedy on television. UMass Boston, UMass Dartmouth, and the Amherst campus closed early in light of the tragedy. We spoke to some students about their feelings and reactions.
Great. So can you tell me what your reaction is to everything that's happened so far this morning?
Honestly, I can't believe this happened. We live in this country growing up. You know, this is America. You don't think this can happen. I'm in shock, and honestly, I hope we find out, what happened.
Now, are you worried about national security now that this has taken place?
Not really. As I said, we do live in America. We are strong. Whatever happened, however this slipped through the cracks, I'm sure we will, recover and gain ground. So.
Now, are you scared? Do you have any loved ones or anything that are in the New York or Washington, D.C. area?
No, personally I don't, but some of my friends are from New York. Luckily, they've heard from their families, so everything's going good.
Now, how would you like the university to react in a situation like this?
Well, I don't know how much the university can react. Hopefully we're going to get some counselors in to speak with students that happen to have loved ones or have, God forbid, lost loved ones. And we're going to have a vigil tonight at 5:30 on the steps of the Student Union, and as well as tomorrow, and the Chancellor is going to speak.
Okay, now, as a student leader, do you have a message for the UMass community at this time?
Just come together, realize what you have, console your friends if indeed something has happened, but just stay together.
Hi, what's your reaction to what you've seen today?
Shock, I don't know, it's kind of funny, I was in political science earlier, and we didn't talk about what happened on the news, but we were talking about how we have to protect our national security no matter what, but I wasn't taking it very seriously. Now I'm watching the news, this is insane. I don't know, it seems like everybody's sort of scared, I have friends in Pittsburgh that are going back to their homes and hiding and whatnot. I don't know. It's very scary.
Who do you think could have been responsible for something this terrible?
Yeah, I'm really not sure. There's a lot of speculation of people in the Middle East, and I don't know too much about the subject, but I guess maybe perhaps it's come from that. I think it's related to the anniversary of the Camp David Accords.
Do you think something like this could have been prevented, or is there anything that we could have done?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I know we have a lot of security and whatnot, but I don't think it could have been prevented. I think whoever did it avoided using any larger weapons to avoid a stronger retaliation from us. Like, for example, chemical weapons, biological weapons. They've used airplanes so as to avoid us sort of retaliating with any larger weapons. You know.
All right. Thank you very much.
What is your reaction to what has happened so far this morning?
I mean, just like anybody else, like, I'm shocked. It's kind of like the entire world just changed in like 1 second. And I have no clue like what's going to happen, what the future's going to bring, or like what the response is going to be or anything like that. But just shocked, you know? Everyone's doing what they can.
Are you worried about national security and the security of UMass students because of what's happened?
No, not entirely. My mind really isn't on that. I mean, my mind's more on the UMass students that have people and family and friends that were out there in New York or any of the other areas, because like geographically where we are, like New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, we have a lot of students from those areas. So it's like virtually every single person on this campus knew somebody that's like close to their heart within like 2 miles of what went down. So those are the people we're here for.
Now, as a student leader, do you have a message for UMass at this time?
We're doing what we can. I mean, we've been all around, like, I know, I'm actually on my way out to a meeting with the chancellor right now that's happening at 1:30, but we're trying to plan visuals, like hand out water, like, I don't know, everybody, stay around your friends, do what you can, take care of yourself, look out for number one, call your family, and I don't know, just take care of yourselves.
Well, I'm kind of shocked just like everybody else, saddened for everybody who's just pretty much died. I don't know, they haven't had any reports to how many people have died so far, but I think it's going to be massive. So many planes have crashed.
Now, do you have any loved ones in the New York or the D.C. area?
No, actually, no, I don't have any family in New York. I have friends, but no family members.
Okay, now, are you worried about national security after what has happened?
Well, my first question is, where was the national security? I can't believe that they actually got into the Pentagon airspace. As far as I know, that there's supposed to be military jets that if you get near it, they're supposed to patrol this area. So I don't know how they were so blindsided.
Now, how would you like the university to react to something like this?
Calm, I hope people of Arab descent, because that's the reaction a lot of people have right now. We don't know who did it, but, as a realistic student, a lot of people of Arab descent are going to get a lot of prejudice. I hope people don't assume it was Arab people, and just calm here. Let's find out what's going on and learn from this, because there's a lot of lessons we can take from this, too.
I feel kind of vulnerable. I feel a little bit scared, I guess, that knowing that at any moment we're up to, our lives are in the hands of others, and I don't feel that as a whole in a culture that we put a value on human life the way we should. And I also feel that deep remorse for all the families involved with that, all the injuries and all the death, and feel a great gratitude for everyone that's trying to help out and move on and keep on pushing.
Now, are you worried about national security after what has happened today?
I don't understand how a plane could get through the national or the no-fly zone in Washington. That to me is a little bit scary. I guess I feel a threat to national security.
Now, do you have any loved ones that are in the D.C. or the New York area that you're worried about or haven't heard from yet?
No, I don't have family in that area, but I do have someone very close to me that's in the National Guard, and I worry for her safety that she won't get activated.
Now, how would you like the university to handle this, or what do you think the university should be doing right now?
I think, well, I hear that the university is closed as of 1 o'clock, and I think we should have, I hear that there's also going to be a rally of some sorts at 5:30, and I think that's a great idea, like get people together and share their emotions and kind of come together and help each other get through this.
Some students gathered outside the student union where a forum on religion raged for a few hours.
For I, as a student of UMass, go out and blow up Stop and Shop, all of UMass can't be held accountable. Yes, it can. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. All right? No. Hold on, listen. Hold on. Go ahead.
Meanwhile, students for the Campus Crusade for Christ were in the campus center to offer prayer support.
So can you guys tell me what your reaction is to what happened this morning?
My reaction is it still hasn't computed in my mind yet. It's a horrible, and I don't know what to think yet.
I don't know. I just started praying for America, and I prayed for people that were around, and so it's still a shocker, and I still don't believe it, but yeah.
Now, do you guys have any friends or loved ones in the New York or D.C. area?
No. One of my uncles I think he's working around Pentagon, and I don't know where he is, but yeah.
So have a lot of students come to your table for prayer support at all today?
Nope, we just started, so.
We've had 3. That's it.
And do they have family and everything, or are they just they're looking for prayer in general?
Yeah, one person wants prayer for his mother.
The campus was empty of students, but not of intense emotion. The skies over Amherst were clear and eerily silent as time practically stopped over the valley and over the entire nation.
Hi, what's your reaction to what happened today?
I'd have to say it's one of shock and astonishment and fear at what sort of rash reactions the U.S. government will probably take, which I feel like a lot of people are probably jumping to conclusions and making assumptions that maybe they shouldn't, and very few people are probably reacting with sort of a cool and calm and composure that would be needed to come to a reasonable decision about what course of action should be taken. And I really worry that that's not going to happen, and then I'll probably have to run to Canada or something like that. But one of my first thoughts was that someone's going to do something really stupid in retaliation, and we're going to go to war.
Who do you think caused it, and why did this happen?
I have no idea, and I feel in a slight amount of retrospect, perhaps it's not to be completely unexpected given the U.S.'s past unilateral policies where they've just basically essentially spat in the face of the rest of the world in many respects, and so perhaps this shouldn't be the most unexpected thing.
So do you think this could have been prevented in any way?
I think if the U.S. had taken a more cooperative stance with the rest of the world and it had been more not so brash and independent about going its own way and doing whatever served its own economic interests, then maybe this wouldn't have happened.
Okay.
The first thing I did this morning when I woke up, I put on the TV about 10 o'clock, and I freaked out. I lost my mind because I'm from Bronx, New York, and this whole summer I was so happy because I had the chance to build a government building, and the World Trade Center is a government building. I did 3 term papers. I'm a civil engineering major, and just for me to realize that that building collapses unprecedented. I can't believe it. Pentagon exploded, one of the highest securities in the nation. There was a bombing in front of the White House. It's just unbelievable. I really can't even talk about it.
And your reaction?
My name is Elijah. I was shocked because I was watching the news this morning, and I heard it from New York, today's news and stuff. And I'm just praying for the family out there at the World Trade Center. And especially if I was a New Yorker, I just know it's very commotion in New York. Because I just called my house and they just shut down New York. No transportation, no nothing. You can't even get in New York, can't leave. So right now I'm just praying right now, make sure my family's all right and people down there that I know who work in the World Trade Center.
So you haven't gotten in contact with all your loved ones yet in New York yet?
No, I know I have family and friends that work in that area, and I actually do have someone that works in the World Trade Center, a good friend of mine, but just I haven't got no word from the family and that he's all right or anything else happened. But right now I'm just shocked and just have no words, just hit today, that it's just scary, what we're going through. And I just hope that I don't know if the government's going to do or anything, but I just hope we resolve this. We don't have to fight.
All right.
Okay, great. Thanks for your time. What's happened this morning?
I'm totally shocked. I have this ball in my stomach, and I feel so disappointed that so much human life, so much innocent life has been lost on this day. I'm somewhat thinking that it somewhat feels like Pearl Harbor, you know, where all these people were killed, that this is something that will end up being a point that will change this country a great deal. I don't know if it'll be for the better or for the worse. It is sad that nobody was dealing with this in the Middle East. People have ignored it, and it's come all the way to the doorstep. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is not Middle East. You know, maybe I'm just jumping to conclusions, because when Timothy Bay bombed the building down in Oklahoma, people thought it was, you know, Arabs, and they were trying to do it. But I just hope that people stay sane and try to find the right answers. I think everybody around here would agree that it is crazy.
Now, as a university administrator, do you have a message for the UMass community at this time?
I think it's a time to talk, to process, to look for friends, to help those people who lost loved ones, because we have a large community from New York City, and to process what's going around. Don't try to deal with this by yourself. Try to find help, because it's not about being strong. It's about processing, knowing that we're all humans and we all have weaknesses. I feel right now that I've had to talk to people to process this myself.
When it first happened, I was just in a state of shock, just being like, you know, like, serious, you know, and I saw the footage and it was true. And, you know, at first I was just like, you know, how could someone do this to Americans? How could someone do this to us? And then, like, sat there and I realized and was thinking about it, like, right now we're going through the same shit that every other country goes through all the time when we commit terrorist acts on them. Like, I don't know, I'm not gonna lie, like, you know what I mean? People are coming at America because we come at the world sometimes, and you can't understand, you know what I mean? You can't even guess who might have done this, but you can understand that there's people out there that know that America makes other people live in oppression, forces other people into situations that they're not happy with, and we only share a border with Canada and Mexico, and you know the Canadians and the Mexicans probably aren't going to be coming at us, and no one can land enough troops on our shore to come at us, so terrorist acts is their way of striking back at us, which I don't agree with, and you know what I mean? But I don't agree with anyone being killed in the name of anything. And I hope maybe America will take a high moral ground, not talk about retaliation, not talking about bringing bombs out and going after someone, and just say, all right, from here on out, like, you know what I mean? We stop, you stop, everyone stops, and just sit down and just think for a second, be like, wow, you know, like, if everyone's sitting down, no one can be beating each other up. Like, I don't know, we need something more than just like a reaction of violence against violence. It's not going to solve anything, so I don't know. I guess like my final reaction would just be hope towards some type of peaceful resolution, you know, like higher moral ground maybe. I don't know, I'm kind of rambling sometimes, but it's like it's a tough situation for us to be in, because we've never really seen too much stuff like this happen before, especially not in such a large scale. But like I was saying, you know, the people in Cambodia didn't know that they were going to get bombs dropped on them during the Vietnam War because they weren't in it. You know, people are taken aback by you know, catastrophes like this. They don't know how to react, but you know, this is the world that we live in, and how they react to situations. You know, no one tries to talk to each other, and I don't know. I guess it's easy to sit here on this campus right now on this beautiful, you know, sunny day, sitting underneath a tree, enjoying the shade. It's easy to sit here and talk about being peaceful and, you know, everyone loving each other and shit. And there's people in situations that I'm not in that I can't even begin to understand. But you try to do what you can to understand other people's point of views, and when you do shit like that, it's when you can, you know, just realize, just sit down and, you know, don't tread on no one else and go easy.
Now, do you have any friends or loved ones in the New York or D.C. area?
Yeah, I do. And it's, you know, you hope, but there's a lot of people there, and there's a lot of people who have loved ones, but the way I look at it, every man alive is my brother, and every woman alive is my sister. So anybody who's hurt, that's my family, you know what I mean? Like, this earth is my mother, you know, you could say the spirit's your father. I don't want to get into religion or nothing like that, like this guy, but you understand what I'm saying? It's like, people have to understand that we all have the same blood running in us, man. I could get a blood transfusion from you, and you could get a blood transfusion from someone else, you know? Don't matter who you are, we're all the same. All got the same blood pumping through our veins, but people separate themselves for other things. They just give themselves the ability to hurt someone. I don't know.
Now, you worried about national security at this time?
I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't know what national security is. That's two words that they use. I mean, we don't know who killed John F. Kennedy. National security, you understand what I'm saying? National security is two dodgy words that nobody really knows what they mean. I mean, I'm worried that you never know what more is gonna happen. You know, I worry about that. But what are we securing? You know, like, we take 25% of the world's resources from only 2% of the world's population. Are we securing that? Like, are we securing the ability to oppress other countries? Are we securing the ability to, you know, build bigger and better bombs? Like, I don't know. So that's why it's like, well, what are we securing? Like, we're people and we have the right to live, but everyone around the world has the right to live. So we shouldn't be looking at ourselves as Americans or at ourselves as a higher moral ground than other people around the world. There's no need to, you know, say, I just heard George Bush reacting that we're going to take any measures to make sure the American people are safe, but why don't they take any measures to make sure people around the world are safe, you know? Why are they so worried about us? Like I said, we're all brothers, we're all sisters, we're all one family, you know, one love.
Great. Thank you for your time.
I pretty much think it's the worst day in American history because, you know, Pearl Harbor was horrible, but this involves civilians, which makes it even that much worse. And, you know, I hope that there's some retaliation here. I'm confident Bush is going to do that.
Now, do you have any friends or loved ones that are in the New York or D.C. area that you're worried about right now?
Yeah, I just recently talked to my cousin. He actually saw people that they were actually jumping off the World Trade Center. So I think everybody knows someone, or at least knows someone that knows someone that is involved here. It's pretty sad.
Now, you worried about national security after what has happened?
I actually think that I don't know, I think a lot of things are going to change after this, possibly maybe a war. I don't know, but I think security is certainly going to be a lot tighter. And this changes a lot of things. This isn't just like a normal, like Oklahoma City bombing. Not that much change after that, but this is going to be a big change.
Okay, great. Thanks for your time.
There's a really somber mood going around on campus. I mean, people are pretty much afraid to even talk above a whisper. It's just, we're all shocked and shaken pretty much. And I have loved ones in Manhattan area actually, and I really haven't heard from them, and I'm sure my family's shaken up, and my roommate lives in Brooklyn, and he finally got in contact with his father, so he's all happy about that.
Are you worried about national security after what has happened?
I'm not so much worried about national security. I'm kind of worried about the reaction that Bush is going to give to this and what our leaders are going to do. I just think that this is kind of a wake-up call that foreign policy really needs to be updated and changed.
Okay, great. Thanks for your time. Tell me what your reaction is to everything that's happened this morning.
I'm just totally devastated. I heard about it when I was at the Every Woman Center in the Women of Color Leadership Network meeting with Jackie. And the first thing that was just disbelief that, you know, it couldn't have been possible. I'm a New Yorker, so this really, really hits me. I know of, I have friends that work in the World Trade Center towers. I know of one friend already who most definitely has passed away. Right now, it's just really hard for me to process things. It's really chaotic in New York. I've spoken to my mother. She's been unable to contact my dad, but I know he's fine. But it's just total amazement and disbelief. One thing that I don't want to happen is just that people start targeting, you know, immigrants or people of diverse cultures because this has happened. They're still investigating how it is that it all happened, but it's hard for me to deal with. It really is. It's difficult. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for your time. As to what happened this afternoon.
It's a terrible tragedy, but everything's still going on as normal. It should. They don't need to cancel classes. I'm still holding my Animal Science Club meeting tonight. So they should really just let things keep going. You know, it's sad what happened, but that's just life. Just keep going.
Okay, great. Thank you. Reaction to what's happened today.
Complete shock. Just to be walking to class and hear about people talking about the Twin Towers falling down and the Pentagon. And the funny thing is, I was just in New York 2 days ago. and took a picture of the buildings from the George Washington Bridge, and now they're not there, looking at the TVs. And just hearing some of the reaction from some of the students, a lot of us seem to be united in the fact that, like, it's a sad day, kind of like Oklahoma City, and that we should all come together. And thinking about class is one of the last things we should be doing today. And it's kind of nice to see that the university shut down, and there's going to be a bunch of vigils and things like that. But I disagree with some of the people saying that, like, oh, life goes on. I mean, personally, I had a relative who worked at the Pentagon. I'm not sure if they still work there, but a kid in my last class, his father worked at the World Trade Center. Is he alive? Is he dead? Like, he doesn't need to be worrying about classes, and to shut down for 24 hours or 18 hours is probably the best thing we can do, and everybody just put their heads together and try to figure out what the next step is.
Now, do you have any friends or loved ones in the New York or D.C. area?
In the D.C. area, it's actually my uncle's ex-wife who worked at the Pentagon in the legal department. And I don't know if she still even works there, but as of 2 years ago she did, and I've been trying to get a hold of people. And I have friends that work in New York, a couple with Yankees and, you know, just sports teams out there. And I don't know if there's any offices near the World Trade, but I mean, they're saying now that buildings around them are collapsing and things like that, so we have absolutely no idea. And I know a lot of my friends on campus do have relatives or friends that work in the area.
Okay, great. Thank you for your time. As to what's just happened today.
I was completely shocked. My mother called me this morning, and she was really upset. Told me what happened, and I feel so sad that people are so angry with our country, and that we need to figure out, you know, what the best thing to do is right now, and not just. I feel strongly that, like, listening to the TV, there was hawks and doves, you know, like, what are we gonna do? And I think that we really need to just think about it, because war just repeats itself over and over again, and there may be something better that can be done, but the families of my heart goes out to the families of the people working in the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, and I think we all need to pray for them and be strong.
Now, do you have any friends or loved ones in the D.C. or New York area?
Yes, I have a congressman uncle, Democrat in Arlington, Virginia, and I don't know where he is right now. I hope that he's okay.
Yeah, since 10:30 this morning, so for probably like about 4 hours.
So what has the reaction of the students been all morning here?
Everybody's crying, everybody's just sitting around, you know, huddling together, everybody's just been watching the news all morning and just keeping a close eye out. All their friends are here. Some of them have had family members on the plane, some parents work in the Trade Center. It's just really sad.
So what is your personal reaction to what has happened so far?
It's horrible. Whoever did it, you know, is a coward. Absolute coward. I don't know. Innocent people shouldn't die. It's ridiculous.
Are you worried about national security after what has happened?
Probably, yeah. Well, definitely. Probably everybody has. It's just hasn't hit us yet. It's mostly about, like, lives that have been lost so far. Nobody's thought that far ahead.
Well, it's pretty sad, you know. It's something really amazing. It really touched me really close because my brother worked at the World Trade Center, but he's all right. He wasn't at his office when it happened, but, you know, still, it's something really sad, and we have to be worried about a lot of things now. I don't know what's going to happen next, you know. I don't know what to expect from all these people, whoever was, and what to expect from the United States, what is going to happen after that.
Now, you worried about national security after what has happened?
Yes, a lot. We all have to be worried about it now, because you never know. Probably we're here just sitting here having fun or having a conversation, and suddenly, boom, that's it, you know.
Here on campus, students are clearly shaken by what's going on. Everyone's been shaken nationwide. People are upset, and here on campus, people are visibly upset.
I know I woke up this morning and I heard the television and I couldn't believe what I saw. I never thought something like this would ever happen in our lifetime. It's just, and the reaction on campus, as Jamie said, has really been, everybody's been in a very somber mood today. Everybody's very sad, upset, especially people in the area or people who know family or friends in Washington or New York.
That's right, Charlie. I know I've talked to a lot of students that didn't want to be on camera, and understandably so. It's a very tough time right now. Many of these students likened what's happened today to Pearl Harbor, and also has called it the worst day in our young lives and the worst day possibly in American history for this new millennium. We'd like to send our heartfelt thanks to all the students who are willing to speak to us today. And we'd also like, everyone here at UVC would like to send their best out to students right now and hope that they're getting in contact with their loved ones and hope that everything works out for the best.
We'd also like to thank all the students who didn't want to talk on camera. We understand it's a tough time for everybody, and we wish them the best as well. We thank you for watching. I'm Charlie Dennison.
And I'm Jamie Liu. Please stay tuned for coverage of the vigil that took place as well. Of the vigil that will be taking place in the Student Union. It has yet to happen. Please stay tuned. We'll be airing that on UVC. And please just stay tuned to UVC, to the Collegians WMUA for more coverage on students and their reactions to what has happened. This was a UVC News exclusive. Thank you.
is a day of deep, deep sadness, of profound human tragedy. There are no words to explain, no words to soothe, no words to comfort, no words at all, especially for the individuals whose families are directly touched by this tragedy. Here on campus, we have been informed that at least one of the members of our UMass family, an employee, was among those on one of the planes that flew from Boston. We grieve deeply for him, for the sorrow and sadness of his family, we feel deeply, and for his colleagues and friends. Tonight, as we gather together in this crisis, let us remember that the grief of any one of us is the collective grief of all of us in this UMass family, in this UMass community. As we grieve together, so must we remember to come together in our healing. We, the members of the UMass family, come together at this time and in this place of reflection and solace, and will come together again and again over the next several days to acknowledge all of the feelings, all of the pain, all of the fears, all of the hurt, all of the confusion, all of the anger, all of the grief of all members of the family. By acknowledging together, by grieving together, may we find ways to heal together. Today is a day of deep, deep sadness, of profound human tragedy.
I'd like to start by saying how much it helps to see you all here. In situations such as these, it's easy to feel handcuffed to help, either because you can't find the right words, or you feel as if it's not your place to feel remorse when others may be worse off than you. But it's okay to feel that way. I think that you all know what I'm trying to say, because you're all here. Never forget in times such as these that we have one another. It's as simple as a hug or an understanding nod. It's as simple as recognizing that the person next to you could have lost a loved one. If nothing else, it's as simple as looking at the person next to you and simply feeling, acknowledging that you're together in that. I know of personal friends of mine that have already lost someone in today's events. This isn't a time for grandstanding, and this isn't a time for fist pumping. This is the time to come together as a family and let anyone affected know that you care. For all who lost their lives today, God rest you and bless you. For all those who lost someone, you have our love and prayers. And for all who are lost, you're not alone. We found each other.
I'd like to express my feelings about today's horrific events, but I don't think the words to do it exist. In this time of grief, fear, and confusion, we as a campus have to come together. We have to truly be a community, and we have to be able to rely on each other for support. Your presence here today is an important step in trying to comprehend the monstrosities which occurred today. We must remember those who are lost and embrace those in our community who have loved ones and friends who have been directly affected by this. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone that came together today to try and help everyone here cope with this, help everyone, those that reached out to someone and spoke with them and talked to them about this. The people that went in and tried to help the campus cope with this as a community. Thank you. My condolences and my prayers go to all of you who've lost a loved one in the tragic events of today. The entire campus mourns with you. To everyone on campus whose world has been turned inside out, we are here with you. We know the events that happened today won't make sense today, tomorrow, they won't make sense next month. They'll never make sense. But we are here together working through this. Today, we watched on TV the most tragic events to happen in recent memory in America. We all watched while those venerable institutions came crashing to the ground in front of us. But no matter how many people hate, no matter how many people, no matter how many terrorists or guns or bombs, there is one institution that they cannot destroy, and all of you here are symbolic of that. All of you here are that. There's one institution that no amount of guns or bombs or terrorists can destroy. That's the human spirit. Hope. We must now come together as a community and in our common humanity heal the gaping wounds that have been opened today. My hat goes out to all of you.
We come together as one community in grief and in shock. We stand with you as leaders of campus religious groups, Christians, Muslims, Jews, and others of faith and goodwill, to honor the souls of the victims, to support those who have lost loved ones, and to pray that peace and healing might yet come from the suffering and pain we feel. We invite everyone now to stand together for a few moments of silence, prayer, or meditation.
Thank you all for coming together tonight as a community. We are still all in shock and still need each other. We need to continue supporting one another as a community and to transcend this test of our humanity with love, peace, hope, and understanding. Tonight, there are many options you have to continue supporting one another. Newman Center at 7:30 will be having a Mass. The MSA will meet in the Cape Cod Lounge. The ARC at Episcopal Chaplaincy at 758 North Pleasant Street and Hillel at 388 North Pleasant Street are both open for people to come in to talk and pray. People will also be gathered and praying at the First Baptist Church at 434 North Pleasant Street. Or you may also gather here in groups of 5, 6, or 7 to talk and share your feelings with one another. Or if you wish to continue this vigil in a larger group, you may join members of the SGA and the campus community on Metawampy Lawn. There will be a continuation of the vigil and refreshments will be served there. The lawn is to my left over here. Up front here, as you come through, you'll see a drum for donations for the Trade Center families. If you want, please consider contributing to that. And we need, as I look out at the sea of candles, we need to also thank Yankee Candle for their donation of the candles. But as you leave here as a show of solidarity, take those candles with you, lit. Bring light to this dark moment of our history.
Canada violation if you have that money inside the book. They will be burdened.
No, just stop.
I don't know. I don't really like it.
Feeling or what they're going through. We have refreshments over here. We have water, Coke, I believe we have some coffee, brownies, that sort of thing. But we're just gonna have one speaker for you tonight. He's my Secretary of Diversity. His name's Chris Rue. And I don't want to take up any more of your time. And I just want to thank you all for coming.
Wow, it's been a long, amazing day. It's been hard. Earlier today, I was trying to figure out what words to say or what type of things to write for everybody, just to share my life with you and to let you into my life a little bit. But then I realized that there's no one word, no sentence, no structure, or anything that can explain what happened today, or anything that can be explained to make any of you feel better or give you a better sense about life. But what I'm here to do tonight is just to give you a brief reflection of me, in an effort to give you some emotional support. Before I came up, I talked to Rick Towns, and he was telling me how he was in a Southern church, and it was his first time there. And one of the older women knew that it was his first time, and she just reached over to him, and she grabbed him by the arm, and she just said, in her Southern accent, "Baby, don't worry about it. Let the Lord do his work." So tonight, I'm gonna let my higher being do his work. A few years ago, I was struck with a tragic loss of my mother, Diane Rue, who passed away literally a week before I was graduating from my junior college. 10 years prior, my brother, he passed away as well. And for years, I could never figure out, why was I the one being targeted with death? Like, why is it me? What's going on? And I realized that, my higher being works in mysterious ways. Things happen for certain reasons in mysterious ways, whether we like them or not. And I've been dealing with that, and I'm fine with that. It's tough. It's very, very, very tough. And over the years, I've learned how to bring the struggles into my life and use them as my strengths. Use them as things that make me whole, that make me feel whole. Most people would call that ashe. Many of you know what ashe is. It's bringing things together. Definitely, we need to take time out and reflect on our lives. Don't take life for granted. And always take a moment out to think about somebody else besides yourselves. Because today was a tough day. Not just for the people who were directly affected, but everybody. It was a tough day. Today I realized that politics don't matter. Being a Republican or a Democrat does not matter. What matters is people died today. Our brothers and sisters died today. Today I realize that I'm not only black, but I'm human. I'm a part of the human race. There's only one race that we need to be worrying about, and that's each other. Today I saw something very beautiful. I saw the UMass campus come together. And yes, it brought tears to my eyes. So just give you guys something to think about. And all of you, just say to yourself when you're walking, when you get up and leaving, Ashe, bringing things together. All human beings, no matter who you are, what denomination you are, bringing things together, Ashe. I love you all. And I hope that my life experiences, and I hope that I shared a little bit with you about how I felt. Because it's tough. My mother passed away 2 years ago, and I'm on my own. So thank you, and let your higher being bless you. Be strong. And if you need to speak afterwards, you can talk to any of us. And, you know, look to the person to your left or right. Say hello, how are you doing? And don't forget, Ashe, meaning bringing things together. It's a West African term. Ashe. Thank you.
I was in my room. I had actually just gotten up, was, you know, sort of getting ready to start the day, and turned on the news. Saw the breaking news scroll across the screen.
Actually walking to the Collegian with a member of the staff, another sports writer. Actually, we were walking home from class, and one of our friends came up to us and said that they, whoever they are attacking us, and the Twin Towers had just been hit, and they just hit Washington. And this kid, being a clown, or as we thought, he was a comedian, we didn't really believe him. But then we went into the student union, and there were hundreds of people surrounding every TV that you could find.
We set up in there, and there were kids that were watching CNN or something like that. And I walked in, sat down in my seat, and I looked up at the TV and just pretty much went into shock at that point, because, you know, that's when we knew, like, what was going on.
He came to my house and picked me up, and we drove up to school. We were listening to the radio the whole time, and the events unfolded on the radio, and it was just something that we couldn't believe.
Complete joke. But there was a part of me that was really scared for a second. I thought, well, what if it's true? So I turned on the television, and there it was. There were the planes crashing to the towers, and the towers crumbling.
Good evening, I'm Jacqueline Foster.
And I'm Bill Boyce.
Tonight we'll be looking back and remembering one of the most tragic days in American history. Last year we all watched in horror on September 11th as 2 planes collided into the World Trade Center in New York City. A third collided into the Pentagon, and a fourth went down in Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
There are a million stories that could be told about this incident, and tonight UVC will deliver the only story that we can cover, the UMass one. It is a story you cannot see or hear anywhere else, except for seeing it here at UVC TV 19. They say that journalism is the first draft of history, and tonight we will hear from student reporters that helped to produce this draft for the campus. While many of us were in our dorms and apartments coming to terms with the tragedy, the student press rushed to cover the UMass side of the story and to also summarize the overall day's events.
We spoke with Matt Sacco, editor-in-chief of the Massachusetts Daily Collegian, and Scott Eldridge, the managing editor. We'll also have a general manager of WMUA 91.1 FM, Audrey Vachon, and our very own news director, Charlie Dennison, and senior correspondent, Jamie Liu, who'll be with us in the studio later on with a special report straight from Ground Zero.
We'll also be showing clips from the report Charlie, Jamie, and news photographer Brian Rideau shot on September 11, 2001 of students reacting to this tragedy. And later in our broadcast, we'll also have some thoughts from students on campus.
Matt Sacco was sports editor at the Massachusetts Daily Collegian last year during the tragedy and is currently the editor-in-chief. Sacco from Staten Island, New York, felt particularly close to the tragedy as a New Yorker.
I can't look back on that without getting goosebumps, the bad kind of goosebumps, obviously. And I almost wish that I was there, because I feel like as a New Yorker, as a native New Yorker, I feel like even though I was around my friends and people that I was really close with, I feel like I should have been in New York, because those are people that really understood what was going on. I feel like that some people in Massachusetts and maybe beyond, maybe in the western part of the United States, really didn't understand what September 11th was about until the newspapers came out the next day. I feel like it hit them more the next day when they saw people jumping out of buildings and things like that. But being from New York, I feel like it hit me immediately, at least a little bit more so than some other people. And that's not any wrongdoing by them. It's just, I mean, it's like 2 planes flew into my living room and, you know, blew up part of my home. It's just, it's a different type of feeling.
Aubrey Vachon is the general manager of WMUA 91.1, and we spoke with her in their offices in the campus center basement. Like other reporters we spoke with, reporting the news is almost automatic for Vachon.
First thing I did when I got to the campus center was I called my mom, because my mom is a nurse. She works the night shift in a critical care unit. So she works at night, she comes home, she goes to bed at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I called her just because, you know, she's mom and she's the, you know, that consoling person. So I called her and she hadn't known what was going on yet. I told her, turn on the TV and watch this with me. And, you know, so we chatted for a little while and had a little cry together, you know. And at that point I was like, I got to get to the newsroom. I got to make sure that somebody is working on this. So it was pretty quick after I found out that I was like, I have to get down to the radio station and make sure that we're working on this.
News Director of UMass This Week News at UVC Channel 19, Charlie Dennison, was one of the first members of our news team to find out about the attacks. Dennison and other UVC photographers set out almost immediately to speak with students.
I was at my first class, and that was when they were still having class. We were listening to the radio in there, and when he let us go and said there were no more classes for the day, I said, you know, this is something that needs to be remembered. This is a very important event, and so I came down to UVC to see if anybody else was here, and if anybody was interested in interviewing people and just recording what was going on. I was kind of reluctant at first because I didn't want to intrude, and I didn't want to seem like I was just doing this for a news story, because I know a lot of people do feel that way when they see the media at an event. They're like, you know, oh, these guys are just in it for themselves. This isn't, you know, they're 15 minutes of fame. But I really wanted to, you know, to record it for the archives. I mean, this is something that was really important to me.
And
working here, we had a job to do. We had to put out a paper, and you know, I ended up taking on 2 writing assignments myself, and because I was from New York, I helped other people with their stories, getting interviews with people that saw it, and things like that. And I really had to take on a different role in the newsroom that I had never taken on before, because I was just a sports editor at that time. But on September 11th, I was kind of like a New York liaison for a lot of people, and I had to write my own news stories, which I hadn't done often. It was a new thing, and I really felt like I started to take a leadership standpoint on that day. But it was a big thing for me I thought, looking back on it, that we got a paper out, and we got a really good paper out, instead of just, you know, getting all whacked out about everything and losing control. We were able to do our job, and in the end, I think it helped a lot of people seeing what we put out the next day.
So it was almost automatic for you to basically start writing, to just get to work on getting the paper out then?
Yeah, I mean, it helped me vent, kind of. I mean, you can't vent in a news story, but you write down what you're seeing, and it almost helps you to grasp it more, because, you know, it's just so unbelievable to watch something like that happen, to see, you know, the 2 of the biggest buildings in the world just collapse right in front of you. And I mean, I've been next to those things countless amounts of times, so it was second nature by now. I mean, I've been working for the Collegian for 2 years, and you know, now if I'm anywhere, if like a couple fire trucks go past my car or something like that, I think to myself, you know, could this be a news story? So obviously, when you see, you know, the most tragic and shaking event in probably our lifetime, you know, obviously one of my reactions is going to be to get down and do my job, because, you know, I am a journalist.
The thing I did was I ran into the office, and there were just a ton of people in the office, and you know, we had people looking at like all different news websites, and we had people on the phone. We actually, was that? No, that was something different. We had people on the phones like calling like News 40 and, you know, some of the other, you know, networks in the area just to find out what they knew. And of course, like we have a TV in here, we were watching, you know, CNN just to keep updated. And it was hectic. I mean, there weren't a whole lot of people down here, because, especially news people, because we didn't have a staff at the time. But just like as far as people, like we had people that, you know, have nothing to do with news who wouldn't care really, who were just like jumping in asking, oh my God, do you need help with, you know, this? Do you want me to go find this information? You know, what can I do for you? So it was a lot of people running around, and I basically I did a lot of sitting in my office, making sure, you know, staying by the phones, making sure, you know, any information that was coming in that way was getting to our news people. But it was pretty crazy. And we have a small news organization. Like, we're not known for news, and it's not one of our big things. But so I can only imagine what it was like at the real radio stations and the real TV networks, how insane it must have been over in their newsrooms.
I found that when you're behind a camera, you often don't see the world as what it is. It just seems like something you're watching, that it isn't real. So for a lot of the day, it didn't really seem like it was happening. I mean, you talk to people, and they're obviously very emotional. I think it was a little bit easier for me because I didn't know anybody directly involved, but it was still a real tragedy. After I went home, the emotions came to me a little more, and I began to really feel what was going on.
It was tough because, I mean, an event of that magnitude, obviously you're overcome with, you know, questions of why and, you know, how, and, you know, just emotional. Like I myself was very upset about it. I broke down at one point. I don't even know why. I mean, I didn't know anyone there, but I think it was just like the shock and the confusion, you know, just overwhelmed me at one point. But, you know, knowing that I'm the one in charge and people are going to come to me to find out what to do, you know, I remembered, you know, I got to keep a cool head. You know, I got to be the one to support everyone else and keep everybody else up. So that's basically what I did. I just reminded myself, this is my job and I have to do it, you know, to keep everybody else going. So
this past week, students from New York had a lot to say about how they felt about September 11th. Bill Boyce spoke with several New Yorkers about their feelings a year later.
This week I spoke with Dave Sharkey from Syosset, New York, and Sean Plycott from Farmingdale, New York, to see their overall reaction approximately 1 year later and their feelings about the tragedies that happened on September 11th, 2001. Some questions I asked them were about, you know, their overall feelings and what should be done with the actual site.
I think a memorial would be nice, a park or something that would help us to remember what happened there.
Now, has anything changed with you personally within the year? Like, are you still like ride buses and take planes, or have you just found other forms of transportation?
No, I continue my life the way it was. I'm not going to let terrorists scare me from doing what I normally do.
What do you think the U.S. should do with the terrorist attacks that have happened, and in your opinion, like, what could happen? What do you think the United States government has to do or should do in the next couple of months?
I really don't know. I think they've done what they should have. When it happens, we need a quick response. We need to let these people know they can't do this sort of thing. But I don't know. I really think it's been handled well so far.
Now, with every media organization broadcasting this live on September 11th, 2001, how was your overall, like, how did you feel when you saw the planes being, like, thrown into the buildings? Like, how was your opinion? How did you feel?
I remember sitting in my dorm room, and I was just in shock. I couldn't think of anything. I couldn't say anything. I just sat there, and you just, you know, it's gut-wrenching. It's just a horrible thing. But, you know, we all got through it.
Thank you, Dave. New York. Sean, it's been approximately 1 year after the terrorist attacks in New York City. What do you think should be done with the actual World Trade Center?
I believe some sort of memorial should be resurrected to honor the people who died, whether the firefighters, police officers, and the people in the buildings and the planes. I also think that some sort of replica of the Twin Towers, a little smaller, should be resurrected so when seen from the skyline would appear to be like the Twin Towers, so it's something similar.
Now, every media organization and every channel basically had, you know, something with the World Trade Centers on September 11th. Everywhere you looked, there was something going on. How did you feel being from New York that day when you turned on the TV and saw this happen?
Honestly, it was just sheer shock. I woke up about 2 hours after it happened, and I turned on the TV, and I thought it was a movie at first. And then I woke up and I looked at my computer, and all these people had IM me, and phone was ringing off the hook. And it was just complete shock. I really didn't know. There's no words to describe how you feel being from New York and watching your city be destroyed like that. I mean, terrorism sucks. My dad worked at Trade Center, so worked 2 blocks from the Trade Center. So at first, all I could think about was him, wondering if he was okay. I called my mom. We hadn't heard from him, but he ended up making it home okay. But how he described what was going on there was complete horror. He ended up quitting his job 2 weeks later because he couldn't deal with the grief down at the site on an everyday basis. He said people just being around the wreckage, people pulling just bodies and eventually body parts out of there was just horrible. My neighbor worked there, and he couldn't leave because bodies were falling, and it's just horrible. That's about all I could say.
Thanks, Bill. We'll be right back.
Senior anchor and correspondent of UMass This Week News, Jamie Liu, joined up with Charlie to cover the story around campus. Liu said at first she was hesitant to go out with the crew, but quickly changed her mind.
Well, what happened was after I had made the phone call down to DC to make sure my friend was okay, my next thought was to call the studio. I called the studio, and for some reason, the thought that popped into my mind when I called the studio was, is the TV set outside the studio for students in the student union to be watching this? And the general manager said to me, "Are you coming down?" And I remember I paused for a second, and I thought about it, and I thought, gee, am I going down? You know, should I go to the newsroom? And, you know, as she's saying this, I'm watching the television, and I'm watching people running away from this cloud. And it occurred to me in my mind, that's a reporter. That's a camera person down there. You know, I mean, these shots aren't coming in, you know, on some sort of robot or something. You know, there's a reporter behind that camera. There's a photographer behind that camera. And they're out there and they're covering a story. And that's when I realized that I could not be out doing something. Because there they were risking their lives. And I mean, who am I to be sitting at UMass saying that, oh, there's no story? Because there's always a story. There's always something.
Scott Eldridge is currently the managing editor of the Collegian and was the assistant photographer editor last year. Eldridge shot many photos for the Collegian on September 11th, including the photo of the Pondside Vigil that appeared on the back of the Collegian September 12th.
A lot of photographers will say that, you know, taking a picture is more than just snapping the shutter. You see everything going on, and because you're focusing so intently on one person or one group of people, you tend to get caught up in things, but you have to just keep moving. So it was a lot of everyone's emotions. People were crying, people were angry, people were confused, and you sort of just scanned a whole crowd of people, capturing little bits of it and taking it in. It was tough.
Originally on my way to the studio, I wasn't sure what type of story we were actually going to have, because the fact we're so far away from everything that's happening, it almost didn't seem like, you know, we should be covering anything, that we should be doing anything at all. But then, you know, when I got here and I met it with Charlie and everything, it occurred to me that, you know, we had to do something. This is a part of history. And there are a lot of students out there, you know, watching the televisions all throughout the campus center of the student union. And we realized that it wasn't so much of a news story that we were doing anymore, but it was I guess it was more of a human interest story. It was a human relations story. We wanted to go out, we wanted to talk to students, and we wanted to talk to them about how they felt and about what they were going through as people during this. And we figured that that was the best we could do because of the fact that I mean, yeah, we're so far away. We really couldn't do much of a news story, but we thought that by talking to students, by recording their feelings, and by putting it out on Channel 19 for people to see, that, you know, somewhere on campus, if there's somebody in, you know, their dorm or their apartment and they're just watching CNN and things like that, and I mean, that's all that there was on TV that day, really. You know, it was just the towers falling over and over again. If they could turn to 19 and realize that they weren't alone, that there were other students on this campus that were hurting with them, that were grieving with them, that maybe it would give them some measure of comfort or something. It was just something that we did because we wanted students to feel like they weren't alone. So.
One of the photos I took is of a man leaning against a tree and crying, and it was two things. It was both very poignant, I thought, and came out as a good symbol of the general consensus of what people were feeling. But at the same time, it was really an odd situation for me. I'd never been put in a circumstance where I'd be taking a photo of someone so emotionally involved without talking to them or approaching them. And I didn't want to take that next step and sort of involve them beyond what they were already feeling.
This week we went around campus and asked people about their opinions on rebuilding Ground Zero. Here's what they had to say.
Totally think it should be a memorial. I think it's something that hits hard, the victims, the workers that were up in the building, really. We need to show our solidarity, not just with all Americans, but with the world as well, because I think that was a message that we need to get more in tune with the world and what's going on there. You might disagree with me, but just don't get too mad at me for that.
I think that it should become a memorial. I mean, putting anything up on there would just, I don't think it'd sit well with the American public. So I think that's the best idea.
I think that they should split it between a memorial and rebuilding businesses, because that was the heart of where it was, and I think it's important to get the businesses and tourism and whatnot back to the area while still remembering what happened.
I definitely think that there should be some type of memorial.
Well, I think that it should stay as a memorial to the people who died, and something that's very natural, maybe a park, no more buildings, no more tall buildings, something, it's a place where people could go, you know, that would evoke meditation and peace, maybe something with nice flowers, running water, something that would be respectful and very spacious, that would symbolize life. And I hope that they don't build a duplicate of what was there. I don't think that would be wrong. I think it would be wrong to stress a place where business would take place as usual. I think it should be more meditative, more contemplative, and peaceful.
I think it should become some kind of memorial site. I think it should be a place where people can come to and, I don't know, get in touch with their emotions about it and stuff like that.
Well, I think there definitely needs to be a memorial of some type, but I think it's really up to the city, and especially a community forum needs to decide what's going to happen with representatives from all different levels of New York City society to decide what exactly is going to be done with it. It needs to be a very democratic process.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think they should build some sort of memorial or monument. No more real office. I mean, maybe like 1 or 2 office buildings, but for the most part, the main part should be a memorial to what happened on September 11th.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Tonight we have senior anchor and correspondent Jamie Lou here in the studio with us to talk about her recent visit to Ground Zero. Senior anchor Bill Boyce from Long Island, New York, also has some thoughts to share with us about New York a year later. Jamie, it's great to have you back in the studio.
Oh, it's good to be back.
Good to hear. Now, Jamie, you were at the site 3 weeks ago. I know you took photos, interviewed people. Tell me about that experience.
It was very difficult, actually. I didn't expect it to be so hard. I knew it was going to be very hard to actually be there.
Yeah.
When I actually got there, it was such a powerful experience to be there. There's really something magnetic about that spot now. When I was there, you know, taking pictures of people and just talking to them, you know, I almost didn't want to leave. There's really something about, you know, that spot. I could have stood there forever just feeling, you know, all the emotions, everything.
Thank you. Now, Bill, you actually live in New York. Tell me about what the atmosphere is like a year later.
Well, we're still grieving. It's really tough to try to forget family members and friends. You just can't forget somebody, you know, regardless of how long it is. They'll always be in your mind and your heart. But the city is doing better. They know that they have to move on. Like, life goes on. You have to work every day. You know, it was really bad in the first, like, 5 months, 6 months, because all these people just, you know, had no clue, like, what was next. You know, what's going to happen to the city? Is another terrorist attack going to happen? You know, everybody was really scared. And not only that, but you had a lot of widows with kids. I know my father and mother lost 2 people to the tragedies, and a lot of widows now who have a lot of kids, and they don't know, like, what they're going to do for income. But the city and, you know, the famous people who live in the city have been really good with doing constant, like, charity events and stuff like that. And also, you know, like, within, like, maybe like 3 months ago, this stopped, but everywhere you looked in the city, people had stuff on their cars, had on the trees, there were red, white, and blue ribbons and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was really patriotic, and everybody was trying to, you know, help each other out. But, you know, we're getting by. So, you know, slowly but surely we'll be back to, you know, normal.
Yeah, when I was there, I remember it seemed like there were a lot less flags up than, I mean, around Amherst last year. I mean, there were flags everywhere, you know, in every window. But while I was there, I felt like there were a lot less flags. And it seemed like New York had gone completely back to normal. Everyone's just walking around, you know, talking on cell phones, waiting for cabs, things like that. But you could tell, you know, just by looking at New Yorkers, you know, walking up and down the street, you could tell that they were different. You could tell, you could just look in their eyes and know that, you know, they really felt something. They were really, you know, a part of this tragedy last year.
Yeah, it's weird because I used to work in Manhattan, and every time I would go into the city, the firefighters and the policemen, even the construction workers, are built up like celebrities now. Every tourist, I mean, you can spot a tourist, but you know, they get hugs, their pictures are constantly taken, and just people just stop and see them and shake their hands and, like, talk to them. And you know, I walked by slowly once, and, you know, this family from I didn't know where they were, but they stopped a police officer, shook his hand, and go, "What you guys did was amazing, and you're always in our prayers." And I mean, that's just something that, I mean, they're grateful, and it helps you move on every day, that the rest of the world is respecting the city and the people who live and work in it.
Exactly. I interviewed a construction worker, actually, that was by the site, and he's been there since day one, helping in the recovery effort. And he was telling me that, you know, he's too young to have ever been to war. But for him, working at Ground Zero was like being at war, because of the fact that he would go in every day. There was this huge dust cloud there for months. And he was just walking around this rubble, and there were just bodies. And it wasn't even, you know, bodies all the time. It was, you know, body parts and everything. And he said it was an awful experience. It was an absolutely awful experience. But nowadays, I mean, now that things have slowed down a lot, the last beam was taken out, the last body had been found and everything, or at least the last body that was in the rubble that they could recover. He said that he's been, you know, talking to a lot of tourists and everything. They walk by, they ask him the same questions about the site, ask him about how he feels and everything. And before they leave, all of them always thank him. They thank him for what he's done. You know, they pay their respects to the people at the World Trade Center. They thank him. He says it helps him get through the next day. And that's the most important thing, the fact that people around him have been so supportive in the recovery effort and helping them to get through the next day.
Now, what do people think about rebuilding on the site?
From the feeling that I got from talking to people around the city was that a lot of people, you know, believe that, you know, it is the downtown area. We can't, you know, sit in the past forever. We do need to move forward. But we also have to remember,
And it seems like a lot of people are saying that we need to have half and half, that we need to bring business back downtown, but there also needs to be a memorial. I've met a couple of people that said they needed it to be purely a memorial, and a couple of other people said, hey, we should just rebuild the towers all over again. Let's show them that we're not defeated.
Yeah, I've also received a mixed feeling. You know, if you rebuild it, people will kind of, you know, forget it through time. You know, the next generation of kids of children will forget that, or will not even remember that this ever happened unless they're told. You know, but other people say to build a memorial, but I mean, I'm kind of splitting like two. I'm half and half, but you know, it does bring back business if you rebuild it and stuff, and you know, you don't want the terrorists to let them know that they got the best of you.
That's true. That's true. Well, thank you very much, and thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Jacqueline Foster.
I'm Jamie Liu.
And I'm Bill Boyce. All of us at UVC TV19 wish you and your loved ones the best on the anniversary of this tragedy. And on a final note, I will leave you all with a quote from singer-songwriter Ryan Adams. I'll always love you, New York. Have a good night.